Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous week, and I hope you're sipping on some champagne or some Chardonnay like I am. Let me know what you're drinking in the comments. Zen Ginger, we appreciate you being there before we even started. We often start late. It's usually my fault, but we also chit chat before we start. So we always come every week. If I don't come, I'm going to let you know. I will post something to let people know that we're not coming, but we are here. It's just open chat this week. Dan actually is with us this week, but he can only stay for a few minutes. So if you have any Dan questions, ask him now. We will still do Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 when Dan can find the time. But if you're on Instagram, don't forget, if you want to see the video and comment and talk with us, jump on over to YouTube at Seahorse Whisperer. Okay, Cheryl, Ray, and Dan for a few minutes. What's up, you guys? What's going on? Dan, anything new with you? Okay, so Dan's on his phone, so it might take a minute. But hey, Seahorse Corner. Hey, Shyla. It's just open chat again this week. So any question, anything you want us to talk about, we can talk about. I want to talk food again because I'm going to take a picture and show you the little specks I keep finding in my food. In fact, Dan, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. I have noticed lately that in the Hikari mysis, not only is I think my store might have a bad batch or something because the pieces are all crumbled, they're all tiny, they're all broken up, and even after I rinse it with a brine shrimp net and I put it in for these little brown specks, like brownish yellow. Is that just a preservative that I'm missing, or what do you think that is?
Well, what I found historically with Hikari, times of the year where it gets like that, and I suspect it has to do with the climate where they're being. It usually lasts for a month or two where they're real tiny pieces, and then it goes back to being usually twice a year. I see that.
Yeah.
That's what Cheryl said. Cheryl said that last week, but Ray came up with the thought that maybe it was what did you say, Ray? Their casings,
parts of the molts.
Yeah,
here
I
in a
think
second.
it's with the breeding. I think I also think that there's a temperature involvement in this. With where they're breeding them.
Yeah.
So I did check with my store and I asked them to get a new supply in. So hopefully by next week I'll have better feed because Dan, I haven't talked to you in a while. My seahorses still haven't given me fry. I'm bummed, so bummed. But anyways, I wanted to have a picture ready. I don't have it ready. I'll try to get it ready while we're actually live. But yeah, it's so weird. There's these specks. I really don't think it has anything to do with the mysis. They're just little specks of yellowish brown. I mean, it's going to be hard to take a picture too because they're so small. But I just
force your net to rinse.
A bigger net, you said?
Well, the net doesn't have to be bigger, but you want larger openings.
Right. I think you might be right because not much gets
I
through
use
it.
like a kitchen strainer to do mine, actually.
Really? They don't go through the kitchen strainer? The mysis?
No. Well, it's a fine strainer, but it's not like a brine shrimp net fine. I mean, it saves the bigger pieces of mysis, and there's still even small pieces of mysis will be in there, but not like tiny.
Not as much.
Yeah.
Well,
all the water.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that it's a preservative that I'm just not getting through because my net is very fine and very, the holes are barely there. So I'll look into that. But
the
anyhow,
metal
Dan,
nets. The metal net.
What metal nets
that they use in the kitchen?
That's what I use. Yeah.
Well, what I would do is I would hunt till I found a plastic one, and that's what I would use to wear them out.
So why is metal bad?
Rust.
It's just a rust.
Gotcha.
I trade them out. I buy mine in thrift stores for change or $1 and then just buy a new one.
But Dan, you were going to say it's not really hurting anything, the metal?
No, the metal's not hurting anything. It's just that with how much we better mileage out of the plastic ones. Whenever we would find them, we would buy several of them and just put them on the shelf.
Sure. And you told us before.
They were usually
Oh, I'm
cheap.
sorry.
They were usually cheap. We'd buy them, we'd find them at a dollar store or something like that for $1 a piece.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I apologize, Dan, you're just cutting off. Did not mean to cut you off. But just for everybody who wasn't here at the opening party, you're doing okay because we know you're in Florida. The hurricane didn't, you're good. Obviously.
No, we were so we did very well. Tropical force winds, power outages, and cleanup. No major damage at all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, he can only stay with us for a couple minutes. So again, if you have a Dan question, ask it quick because he's going to have to go. He's on his phone. That's why he sounds funny. And he will be back for Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 when we can get it scheduled. I'll call you later, Dan. Hey, Kevin. Also, let's see. What else do we need to talk about, guys?
One thing real quick, you can get some PVC pipe and you can actually make your own sieves using different meshes. And I use different sizes of plastic mesh to rinse the brine shrimp and clean it out. And that's something you might want to look at because it'll cost you less than $2.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, if you use the micron mesh, you can sterilize them.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, just get some nylon screen like you use for a screened-in porch, and just glue that on. And the best glue I found was
they're real easy to do.
Yeah, he's driving, guys. That's why he keeps cutting out. Yeah.
Hello.
We'll have
use it to harvest live food. I use them to harvest live food also, and I can decide what size I want and vary the screen hole density on it. So, like if I got brand new little bitties, I can go in and easily get them out and siphon them off into another net. It just makes my life really easy.
Well, and I know that Seahorse Source used to sell the sieves. I mean, the one he sent me, like they come in different mesh so that you can take what you want.
I have a set of those from Brine Shrimp Direct.
I could make those.
I have like 6 or 7 of the big ones.
What'd you say, Dan?
I can make those on demand. I still have all the stuff.
Okay, well, maybe I'll order some from you so we can show them on the show and tell other people. There we go. Yeah, I'll get with you on that too.
That would be great.
Because I still have one. Dan, you can also still make the catheter things, right?
I still have all that. Yes.
All right. Okay.
Dan's coming back. Dan's coming back.
Yeah, we hope. And I'm sorry if we keep cutting you out. It's like what you say happens 10 seconds later. I apologize. We'll get you back in here too when you're on computer too. Hey, Zen Ginger wants to know, is there a beginner seahorse? Would one that any of you would say is best? Let's let Dan go first since he probably has to go.
Well, the obvious choice there is H. erectus, and that is generally the most readily available and probably about as easy as any of the species.
I totally agree. I'll let the others get there too, but Dan, that's another thing I wanted to tell you is we need to talk about whitey eye soon when you're able to, not be in a rush and not be cutting out, because we had some great whitey eye questions and none of us have ever kept them. So, but Ray, Ray, can you get erectus? Yeah, you can. You're in Canada. Which would you say?
That's pretty well all that has been coming into Canada until just recently. And somebody in Toronto, one of the stores in Toronto, has brought in a selection from Seahorse, Australia. So, but when you're looking at abdominalis at 300 and something, I paid $35 a piece for mine from same place.
Yeah.
$35 a piece. There are a lot more here, but
well, I paid a lot for shipping. But the thing is, even with the shipping, I could have turned around and sold them for $100 and been okay. But this store wants to make some money off it, so they got a couple $100 markup on it
sure,
to make a good profit.
sure. Cheryl, do you have an opinion about the easiest species for a newbie?
Erectus. No
Yep.
doubt in my mind. They have larger fry. Their fry are typically benthic. They are much easier, especially if you're working with multiple generations, in terms of transferring them, conditioning them to start taking frozen food. And you can start with them at a couple of weeks of age, getting them to start taking frozen food. They're very hardy. It's just they've been bred in captivity for so long, and you occasionally supplement with some new genetics through wild caught, and you condition the adults before you put them together. You're going to have. This is why I'm very careful about how many erectus I ever have, because they can easily run me in a heartbeat.
Unless you have a pair like mine that won't give me fry. Ooh.
Yeah, or mine don't either anymore.
Well,
Personally, I didn't find it any harder keeping Redi or Erectus until you consider the fry.
Right. Thank you. I was going to say that with
horses and not raise the fry, then I don't really see the one's got any advantage over the other.
Well, I agree with you, Ray. My only answer would be whenever Cheryl answers, it's always going to be about fry because that's her life. She's the mother of all baby seahorses. Again, I agree with Ray. If you're looking to keep seahorses, the only species that I would personally steer clear of is Zosray. And it's just because they need live feeds forever. You know, they're just like, and they have more upkeep. But Erectus, Redi, anything captive bred is going to be pretty easy as long as you follow the guidelines.
I'm going to throw in one other one, and that's hippocampus ingens. Not because they're small, but because they're fry. They will produce several thousand fry at a time and they look like an eyelash when they're born. I mean, they are very tiny, and even from mature pairs. And they're not going to be even start to settle and hitch for at least 3 weeks. And
right. No, that's the thing. So that's the thing, Cheryl. That's the point I was making, and I think Ray was making, is that if you ask the question, what seahorses should I keep so that I can breed seahorses? That's a different answer from what's the easiest seahorse to keep. Because the easiest seahorse to keep is any seahorse bred, frozen trained, and used to an aquarium. There are some differences, okay? But what Cheryl's talking about is the breeding. If you keep Redi or Ingens and you want to raise their babies, they're smaller, they need smaller foods. We will have a whole episode on that. But I would say also that between the species, like I kept Erectus, Barbori, Cuda, Redi, and hybrids. And the Barbori, my favorite species to keep, but they were pickier. They would only eat certain pieces of food. They had to be target fed because they would not go to the bottom to eat. So if you're looking for just the easiest seahorse to keep as a newcomer, I say Erectus.
No,
Well, abs, Ray, but with abs are the easiest. They're the hardiest, but they require more because you have to keep their water cooler, right?
Yeah, keeping the water cooler. But then the thing is, you have less other work to do. Like it's not so critical about the tank maintenance with an ab.
I agree, and I'm with you. I just didn't want to spend the money on chillers. So I guess the answer is with all seahorse questions it depends. It depends.
Yeah, Dan even ran into the same problem when he had the abs. that both of us had when we had the engines, and that they produce very large broods. And I'm talking not 200 or 300. I'm talking 1,000
thousand.
I know,
sometimes.
Cheryl, but we're going to have a whole episode on fry because what this Zen Ginger has never kept seahorses. Keep a pair. In fact, the next
Right.
question was, I heard that they prefer buddies and most don't keep one. Is that correct? And does it have to be a pair? Or if I don't want babies, can I keep just males or females? Holly,
Just
let you
males.
answer first.
Yes, you can. You can do just males or females, and they get along fine either way in my experience. I kind of prefer if I was going to do just one sex or another, just from my observation, the females tend to be more interactive.
Me too.
So
The other
the
thing
male,
is the biggest
Hang on,
problem.
Cheryl. Cheryl. Let Holly finish, please.
the males are cute, but they're just not as interactive with you. I found as the females will swim up to you, they recognize you, and beg for food. And my females just tend to be more active, I've noticed. I have one male that has learned from one of the females. He mimics her, and he's started learning to beg now, but he does it like half-heartedly, like he's not really too sure about it, but he learned by watching her. She's really in she'll watch for me to walk through the room. And I think the females are more fun. If you're going to do one sex, I would go with female.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Cheryl.
The other thing about males and females is typically if there are no females in a seahorse tank, I'm sorry, no males in a seahorse tank, at least one or more of the females in the tank will develop a pouch. Then I've seen this happen.
Is that true after
Seldom.
they're sold as as seahorses? Like I've seen that happen too, Cheryl. I know exactly what you're talking about. But again, mama of all seahorses, so you're
Well,
talking
the thing
about
is,
raising your own. I've
I'm
never
going to
seen
give,
a seahorse
I'm gonna
grow
give you a
pouch
quick example.
after it
Yeah,
was
friend of
was
mine bought
sold.
2 adult female reed eye that a friend of mine was selling. She took them home, and then she decided she wanted to get a couple more because she had a 60-gallon tank.
Mm-hmm.
And she bought 2 reed eye erectus hybrids from Dan. Within less than 2 weeks, the 2 new kiddos had pouches,
Wow.
and she was not set up to care for or try to maintain raising fry. She just wanted a pretty
Well,
seahorse tank.
I'm going to say that I don't think that that's a regular occurrence when you buy the seahorses once they're of age. Like I've seen it happen in the brood stock that I actually bred myself. I've seen when I tried to separate them, I've seen a female grow a pouch because there was no other males. But in general, when you buy a seahorse that's, for sale, typically there's always that catch, right? But typically they're going to stay. Holly, that females, I just like the females better. The males have the prettier colors. The males change colors more. The males are more snippety at each other. I had a bachelor tank that I had 3 males that just could not get along with other seahorses. But 3 a-holes in a tank together, they did fine because they all got to their corners and stayed there and only came out once in a while to eat or whatever. Ray, what's your thoughts on all this?
I don't believe that there's very many that will change female to male. I think most of the stories are tempered by the fact that they've bought, say, some juveniles that are 4 to 6 month range.
Right.
And there are a few times I've had males not develop until about 7 months on the reed eye. I've never had that with the erectus, but with the reed eye, yeah, had the odd time. But that's like I don't know how many hundreds I've sold, but
Never
maybe
changed.
at least 700 or 800 that I've sold, and it was only a couple that ever got to that point.
Well,
Now,
oh wait, let Ray finish.
with the erectus, so I never did experience it with that. They
You
seem
know what?
to all be fully developed by about 6 months at the
Well,
late.
my first pair, my actual first pair, I did watch this happen. I bought two seahorses from not a reputable breeder, right? That was my first, actually, it was first four seahorses. I didn't know it. I didn't buy from Seahorse Source. I didn't buy from Alyssa. I bought from some, and so the four seahorses I got, two of them did become males. When I got them, though, you can tell if you get them all and they're this big, and there's just the U or the what's it P shape of the female, and then you don't know because they're not fully developed. So that it's about getting seahorses that are size 3 to 4 inches is my thoughts. And Seahorse Corner disagrees with us, Holly. Heather says if you don't want to worry about changing sex, best chances is to get males. However, she also says the girls interact more with people, with us, whereas the males interact more with each other. Agree, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things,
What about the original question that Zen Ginger asked? Can you keep just one? Ray, you're doing that now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing it now, and you can see that he's not happy.
yeah,
Like he's just
he's lonesome.
like he just doesn't do much of anything now. He has one spot that he sits there and perches for the most part, and the only time I see him get away from that is when I forget a feeding. I go down for the next feeding that beyond the one I've missed, and he'll be down at the end waiting to get fed then. But then the next time I look, and he's right back in the same spot again.
Can I back up for a minute to the
Sure,
males
Cheryl.
versus females?
Yeah.
Dan is the one that has on more than one occasion reported and had egg producing females that after a year of age developed pouches.
But he had thousands of seahorses.
And that's seahorse.
Yeah, I think it happens. It's rare. I
Yeah.
don't think it's like it's destined to happen, bound to happen. I think
Like no one should be
one in
scared.
1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't be
Yeah, I
scared.
wouldn't worry about it.
I've seen similar. It happens sometimes when they get older, particularly if there's no suitable mate in the tank for them.
Sure,
And-
but I don't
yeah.
think people should be afraid that that's good. If it does happen, you still don't have to raise the fry, right? I mean,
True.
it's
True.
you don't have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful
Or
watching.
maybe trade with a friend that needs a male and get
Exactly.
another.
And that's my favorite thing to watch is them courting. I'll tell you. Like I know people don't want to deal with the fry, but you really don't have to. And the thing is, when they're courting and spinning around each other, and it's beautiful. It's magical in my thoughts. And Andrea said, "Don't you usually say females are less likely to have GBD or PE? Could be something to consider when choosing male versus female." And you're absolutely right, because females can't get PE. They can get internal GBD, but they can't get pouch emphysema. If they don't have a pouch, they can't get it, right? So that is absolutely another good factor.
I agree with that completely. The males typically tend to have more problems with because they have the potential to develop pouch emphysema along with maternal gas bubble disease. And yes, I agree with that completely.
And Heather's disagreeing with us again. I love you, Heather. We need a little back and forth. I love you. But she said people think females are healthier, but she does not. Males and females are equally healthy and have same requirements. They won't get pouch emphysema, but they are still susceptible to illness. You're right. They can still get GBD. You're right. Absolutely. It's just that I personally, in my quest with keeping seahorses, had out of my tanks. I know that all the pros say pouch emphysema doesn't happen anymore. Maybe I'm sure I was doing something wrong, but I've had at least 2 to 3 males that ended up with the pouch problem. And it's just frustrating. That doesn't mean anybody out there new will have that problem. That does not mean that. Keep your tank clean, follow the requirements, and you'll probably be fine. Good.
All
My
the
personal
seahorses
thought-
I've lost so far have been male.
Yeah.
I still have all my
Time out.
females.
Time out. Holly first. Say it again.
I said all the seahorses I've lost in the almost 4 years now that I've had them have been males.
Interesting. Go, Cheryl.
I haven't lost any.
Cheryl, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I have only seen internal gas bubble disease 0 times in over 17 years of keeping horses. I have seen pouch emphysema from a male Combs, young male that I got from a reputable breeder, and she ended up euthanizing most of the males because they were all developing PE. So there was some kind of something going on either in the tank or in the genetics. And I did treat that male. I was able to get him back. He was able to reproduce, but it was a continuous ongoing process. Every few months, I had to do a pouch flush on him, etc., to keep him cleaned out because he was struggling. And those are the only 2 instances that I have had problems with gas bubble disease.
And Dan just commented, pouch emphysema is from inadequate water conditions. And I that's what I'm saying, is I agree.
Yeah.
The 3 times that or 2 to 3 times that I had problems, they were in smaller tanks that didn't have all the equipment, didn't have a sump. Every time it was in a tank that I didn't have enough going to handle the inorganics. But Dan, I wish you would have been here last week too. And I hope you can come next week or soon, because we're going to try to get Dr. Tim in here too, because we had a great conversation a week or 2 ago about Ray finding that, what was his name, Ray, the guy that said inorganics was not the cause of all these problems?
Randy Holmes Farley.
Yeah.
Randy Holmes
He
Farley.
didn't say that it wasn't. He said that he wouldn't want to assume that the organics were the cause.
Well, and I need to get with Dan on the side and talk about the experiment we're conducting, which we can talk about in a second. But did you have anything to say, Holly? I feel like I cut you off.
No.
Okay. And then,
I wanted to say something.
oh yes, Ray, I'm sorry. You're the one I left out. Go ahead.
When you're talking about whether males or females are more prone to problems, I personally don't think it's a male or female thing. I think it's strictly due to the individual immune capabilities of the seahorse.
Yes.
So if you've got 4 seahorses in a tank, there's usually going to be one that is going to come down with things faster than another. But eventually, if you don't rectify the cause of it, the others may come down with it too.
Yeah.
The caveat being that maybe one of those 4 might have super good immune system and might never come down with it under the same conditions, say, the other 3 finally do.
But it's all still bad for them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all still not good.
It's all an immune thing. It's same like us humans. I keep saying
Yeah,
that.
I know, but
Yeah.
literally females can't get pouch emphysema. They don't have a pouch. So they're not
But that
sucking air into the
doesn't
pouch.
mean that the
Or
seahorse
water.
is the problem. The problem is the water.
Right. I agree.
It's
I totally agree.
So that's not
totally
the
agree.
male that's the problem. That's the keeper.
Right. And what I'm trying to reiterate and back you up on, and Dan and Heather, is that if you've got a male getting pouch emphysema, there's a problem that will eventually hurt the females too. Water quality. I was agreeing with you. I agree. And I learned that for the hard way myself. I always try to tell you guys, if you're making mistakes, I've been there. But
Males can't get egg bound either.
Kelly, we've all been there.
I've never had a girl get egg bound, but anyways.
I haven't, but I've had people I sold seahorses to that did have it. Not very many, but it did.
Well, I just always try to play devil's advocate on this show, because these problems that you could have. Oh my gosh, this might happen. Oh my gosh, that might happen. But I never had problems until I was breeding my own seahorses and keeping more tanks when I was just, well, that's a lie. I had problems when I was just two pair because I wasn't following the guidelines. I had 4 seahorses in a 29-gallon, and it was just too much, and I couldn't keep up with the maintenance, and the water quality went to poo. So, but I'm just saying, to answer your question overall, my answer is it doesn't really matter. If you don't want fry, try to get female or male. Heather's right. They're, the health is the same. It's just different things, but you can try to avoid fry. And as Heather said, your best bet is because they absolutely can't not have a pouch again, right? So it's just up to you. And if they have fry, there's two. So I wouldn't worry too much. But when she was breeding, everyone wanted to only buy females, but she didn't see a difference in health. Both require pristine water. If they will both get sick. Absolutely agree. Absolutely. And let's see. One more question from Zen Ginger. Do some crossbreed between types, like in some other fish, who most stick to their own subspecies and whatnot? They will crossbreed. In fact, when we talk about hybrids, it's erectus and reedi, but they're crossbreeding typically in the ocean. Cheryl, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing is, we know that reedi and erectus do interbreed. It's estimated somewhere between 30 and 33% of all the seahorses in the Gulf area like that are hybrids. One of the interesting things that's come out of this, though, is people that have tried to breed them back. They typically will not breed back to another hybrid. They will choose a mate as either a regular erectus or a regular reedi. So there's obviously some inhibitions there going on, most likely behavioral, that are preventing them from interbreeding back for a second generation. Dan would be much better versed than I am in this because he has worked with them. I have not. But just from the reading I've done, they hybridize, but they don't hybridize for long. But the thing is, if you look from a zoological perspective, and I just went there, yes, for species to evolve and mature and be able to change habitats, ultimately they're going to have to interbreed, or the species may die off, which is what we're already seeing right now with global warming, and we're seeing species dying. And the species that are going to make it are the ones that are able to adapt to heat. So,
which species are dying?
There's been a number of different species. Different types of bears, different types, not so much wolves, but carnivorous mammals. Elephants have really been suffering.
I'm with you 100% there. I thought you meant seahorse.
Not
species.
seahorses specifically.
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying specifically seahorses, but the thing is, the same information still is applicable to seahorses.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Jorge did one paper about how do you get speciation, and he went through a whole series about, well, this river gets blocked and they can't get back up there, so they have to move someplace else. And he presented a whole series of different situations that would either kill off a species or help.
But it hasn't. It hasn't killed them off. When they move, they do adapt, right? I mean, global warming's serious. But I would love to have that conversation when Dan's here because I know his thoughts on it. And
some are going to survive. Some are going to go extinct. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Holly, any thoughts before I move forward?
No, I would just say though that those are the only 2 types of seahorses you would keep together, though, for their own safety, because the reedi and erectus live in the same waters. They're from the same area. It's safe for you to have them together in an aquarium, but I wouldn't put, say, an erectus with an abdominalis or another type of seahorse, because they're from different areas and they could affect each other's health, and
Sure, and
probably
we
have different requirements too for their water.
well, I think abdominalis are the only ones that have certain requirements.
Super cold
However, I
water.
would say, yeah, I would say though that Cheryl and Dan and all of us have talked endlessly about not mixing most species, and Cheryl's gone on and on about it's because of their immune systems. Like it's because of what, even if they're bred in a very secure place like Seahorse Source or like Alyssa's Seahorse Savvy, they still have the immune system that they got from the ocean, right? So their
Yeah.
offspring immune system. So mixing, the only two species you would ever mix are erectus and redi. We should stop drinking. What we do on Wednesday, I swear.
Real quick though, you have to understand
Go
that
ahead,
it's
Cheryl.
like the CUDA complex, that we still call it the CUDA complex. There are coming up all the time using DNA testing to accept the fact that many of these are actually different species of seahorses. They look very similar. They live in different parts sometimes in the same areas, but they are actually different species.
And you know
And
what?
they
I
are
actually disagree. I really do. I too much of the different species. I think all these seahorses come from one main seahorse and they've adapted to their surroundings. Just because they have different spines or whatever. So I can't prove it, but I feel like they all have adapted and they can't be mixed because of their adaptations. So if you want to call that a species, then we can do it. Ray, I want to
Is that
give you a
like-
chance to
it's
talk.
an old
Is that like humans all coming from Adam and Eve, and then we have this great variety of humans on Earth now?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that statement, even though
Well,
you might
except that
not.
I don't believe in Adam and Eve.
Kelly, from a zoological perspective, there are what we call lumpers and splitters, and you will never can get 50 zoologists in the same room, and half of them would argue that the species is a lumper. The other half would argue the same species is a splitter, and you will never get an agreement on it because it's a continual. That's part of evolution. That's a continuous changing process, and so
Unless you don't believe in evolution.
yeah, that's just one of the problems when you try to start getting into taxonomy and trying to, well, this is ab, this is an erectus, this is a redi. Well, some of these guys may have been playing hanky panky in the background.
I'll never forget Graham Short. He is an ichthyologist and he's brilliant. And I have nothing bad to say about him. He's amazing. He's not only amazing, but he's a nice guy too. We did an interview many years ago. It's not great because I just first had started doing Wine Wednesday, but go watch it because he talked about the different speciation and he's brilliant. And I think their work is great, but he also was interested in Lucy's seahorse, which happened to be a hybrid, and he wanted to name it a new species. And it wasn't. Well, maybe it was. I don't know. It's really up to your opinion. Is an erectus redi a new species? I don't know. I don't know the answers. I just, I'm going back to Adam and Eve.
The whole point of doing the speciation is for slightly different species to come together. Another species actually has a stronger survival than either of the parents, and that speciation comes in. That's where, I mean, how about would you put a black bear in the yard?
Except wait. For the fact that you just pointed out that the erectus redi hybrids have trouble recreating. They don't breed, so they're not stronger. They're not better. So I don't know the answers. I'm not trying to start a fight with any of that.
Well, they're not making a new species anyway.
Are we just harvesting the species from wrong location? And are some of them moving farther south, like someone expressed to me, where they have observed erectus in the coral reefs down in South America and farther south? So what are erectus doing in corals in basically southern regions?
Well, here's
Hey.
my answer to that. I think the scientists don't know shit. To be honest with you, I'm sorry, but I think, and that's one of Dan's
No,
big
I'm not
arguments.
arguing with you.
Now, listen. On the red list, saying, and I appreciate the scientists. Don't get me wrong. I want them to keep studying. I want them to do more. But when they say that a species is endangered, for example, Zoster, and then Dan says, "Oh my God, come to Florida. They're all over. They're everywhere." That's crazy to say they're endangered. They're not, because we study a certain area and we think we know what we're talking about, and then
Thank
it's not
you.
true somewhere else. They've moved. So we just need to do more studies. But I don't want to get deep into the study of seahorses in the ocean, because what we're talking about here, and to all of our friends that are new, is that when you get a pair of seahorses from a respectable breeder, captive bred seahorses, going to see all these troubles, and don't mix anything but erectus and reedi in a tank. Let's put it that way. If they want to do their hanky panky in the ocean, fine,
Okay.
fine. But in a tank,
Leave,
only erectus and reedi.
leave the experimenting, throw it in a tank and see what happens. Up to the people that have been doing this for years and have more capabilities and probably much more efficient tank systems than the
Sure.
average person starting out. And I think the average person starting out, I would recommend if they can do it, put in a 40-gallon tank with a 20 or 29-gallon sump.
Mm-hmm.
Put your filter media as much as you can into the sump. Make a nice large environment. You know, you can use K1, you can use aquachar, you can use filter socks. There's all kinds of things that you can use. It's got room for a really nice big skimmer, that you want, and you're going to have wonderful success enjoying this hobby. And that, first of all, and that's what brought me into it, is I love seahorses. Yeah, I've been
Yep.
at it for a long time now, but the first thing is I go in and sit down and spend 30, 45 minutes with a camera in my hand, sitting on a bucket of salt, shooting pictures because I love them.
Well, and Kevin said he wants to move to the Caribbean and start researching. Do you know that seriously that was my inclination too? I'm not kidding. Like, once I heard the arguments on both sides when it comes to the seahorses in the wild, I really was like, I want to go change my life and go learn to scuba dive and learn to, learn these creatures in the ocean. But this channel is, we'll have these arguments once in a while, but this channel is mainly for hobbyists, and I just wanted to get it back to that. But I'm right there with you, Kevin. Speaking of hobbyists and such, Cheryl or Holly, were you not telling us that Tank Talk with Tyann was pretty good from last night?
Oh, well, I haven't been able to watch it yet. I've been,
Oh,
it's AEP season for me. It's Medicare open enrollment. And I really wanted to watch the one about the jellyfish. But I had my Walmart kiosk I ran that day. And then after that, I had appointments. And then
I'm
I
confused.
had to drive home. I had like a 14-hour day. And her talk is where I live. I think it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So I was still working and I missed it. So while I was waiting for you to come on, I started playing it, but I only got into the first 15 minutes of it. So the guy that owns the jellyfish warehouse, that's his company. He had just started talking about the types of jellyfish he has in his story. But I had looked because they started showing up, I guess, because of I was going to watch her thing. Facebook just seems to know when you're interested in something.
they put it up in front of you.
Started showing me stuff about jellyfish recently. So I went and looked at some places that sell jellyfish and was reading about how to keep them. And they're not real expensive for like the moon jellyfish. I think cost around $20, and it seems like they're easy to feed. They don't need a lot of space. They don't need heavy duty filtration. And I was thinking they eat the same thing as the seahorses. They probably wouldn't cost me much more to keep.
Right. But I think, and this, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it too because I missed it too. Busy life, but I always go back and watch Tank Talk with Tyann later
Mhm.
because they're so good. But my big question, if I had somebody here, would be, can they be kept with other things? Because I've seen the small jellyfish tanks that are awesome, but I
I
don't think you can
wouldn't
keep
keep them with
them with
something
other stuff.
else. At least the ones
Yeah.
I was looking at. I mean, they're just so delicate, but it looked like I could keep them like they were selling them in like 5-gallon tanks, and so not much water. I was reading like you change like 25% of the water
Mm-hmm.
every week, and the filters they were using weren't like, they didn't have a sump, and all that. So I don't know, I need to learn more about them, but it seemed like something that was doable compared to a lot. They eat once a day, I think I was reading. You feed them once, so it'd be kind of like the freshwater tank, and they'd just be pretty to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if
And when you learn more, but I just wonder how long it's going to take for them to figure out that they do need more. Like
Yeah.
yours is.
I,
I don't know. Go
I
ahead, Cheryl.
suspect they're going to find if they improve their tank size, they're going to have greater longevity. And I
Mhm.
also know enough about octopi to know that they are not only escape artists, they are pinball wizards. They love to play with anything you can throw in there.
Oh no,
Right?
not
No.
octopus, Cheryl.
Yeah,
Jellyfish.
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 Oh, I'm
And
thinking
actually,
Talking about jellyfish.
Kevin, I'd love to know when the cephalopod expert is coming on because
I'm losing my
definitely want to
brain.
be there for that. No, it's okay. Just wanted to bring it
I
up.
hope the jellyfish aren't escaping.
I
Right.
would love to set up an octopus tank. The thing is, I'd probably end up with half a dozen of them crawling around on the floor when I walked in one day or something like that, knowing my luck. What are you
Well,
guys doing?
I loved when expert about cephalopods on this channel, but it's octopus next week. Okay, next
Yeah.
week. Make sure you're there for Tank Talk for Tyann with Tyann. I will be there Tuesday night. It's always at 8 p.m. my time Eastern, right, guys? I think it is. I will be there for that one. I won't miss it. But and to totally switch gears, Ray, the tank behind you, is it just you don't want to empty it, or what's in it?
It's just fresh water there. It helps keep the humidity level up. That was the last Barbary tank.
Right. So it's just there for
It's fresh
humidity
water in
levels.
there now.
I mean, like, what are you doing with it? Just not, you haven't
Nothing.
torn it down?
It
He
just
Okay.
sits
uses
there
it for
and goes from the
humidity.
sump up and from the tank down to the sump and keeps circulating, and I keep adding water to it.
Yeah. See,
Cool.
he has the opposite problem a lot of us have, where we are too humid, where we have too much moisture, and we have to run dehumidifiers. He has the
Yeah.
opposite problem living near the Great Lakes, where he's got to increase his moisture content because he just doesn't have the humidity.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
Really?
Disagree.
If you lived here and put up with the how would I say, the fact that we have so much water around us,
Yeah.
it gives us a very high humidity level. But in the house here, like I turned the gas furnace on yesterday, first time this year, and so now with the gas on, the humidity level in the house is dropping.
Mm-hmm.
But outside, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I have a daughter that lives in New Brunswick, and when I get out there and I'm on the coast out there, where you got all that salt water sitting there all around you, the humidity is nowhere near what it is here around with the Great Lakes surrounding us.
With the fresh water.
Right. But it's the fact that like we're totally surrounded.
Dang, I'd probably
Yeah.
go nuts.
Hey,
Humidity
Kevin,
doesn't get along.
go ahead. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was just gonna say, humidity and I don't get along well for very long.
Yeah, that's why I've got air conditioning.
Yeah, I'm not fond of it either.
Well,
That
the thing is,
question. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I moved here from Colorado, and Colorado typically is a very dry environment because of the winds and downslope travel and stuff. I moved here, I was like, I
Yeah,
can't breathe. And then when I visited my sister in Florida, it was even worse.
sure. Sorry, guys, I am still here. And that question was for you, Kevin. Is Richard Ross coming to the cephalopod conversation? Just curious, because he's great. But anyways, all right, guys. What else? I did say I have to cut it short this week. I'm gonna get some guests in soon. For more information. Of course, it's always open chat, even when we have guests, where you guys can ask any questions. We love newbie questions. We tend to dive into the science a little too much, but it happens.
Sorry.
But anyways,
Well,
no,
short is
I mean
fine
it's
for me.
good.
I've been up 16 hours already, so
Exactly.
I can cut it short.
Was there anything else, Ray? You haven't got to talk much. Was there anything else you wanted to? One guy is still trucking along, right?
Nope.
Just
Yeah,
kinda thrilled.
he's still there, but he just doesn't do anything anymore. It's frustrating to watch him, but um,
But you've
if I
had
get
him
to
for
the point I
years,
can't look
Ray.
after it anymore, then I'll have to put him down. But
We
it
don't
would have been
right.
nice when I had the two of them still, if I could have found someone that would have taken the pair, but there just wasn't anybody that was willing to.
I know, and I did reach out to Devin. I just never got a response. He's got so many
As soon as
things
somebody
going on.
finds out how old they are, they don't want to take them and then lose them.
Yeah. How long have you had him now?
How old is he?
It's
Be 7 in December.
Yeah.
Aw.
See, and they can live another 7 years, but it's
Yeah.
you got to do things right for sure.
I doubt that he will when he's on his own.
Yeah, they don't do well by
Right.
themselves
Right.
usually.
Mhm.
And that was the answer to one of the original questions is, they really do better in pairs. I know everybody wants to have a tank that has other fish and coral and seahorses and have this magical thing, but it's just not the way they do. I mean, I guess it is the way they do in the wild, but it's just not the way that we can do in a box, right? I mean, there's just too many things that interact,
If you have
and
if you have a 200-gallon tank, yeah, you could pull it off.
right,
Even in
right.
125, you could probably pull it off with corals and stuff. But when you start getting into the smaller tanks, you've already got too much stuff in there, and it's just going to make it next to impossible to keep clean, take care of, unless you've got the filtration and everything, so it's immaculate.
Right.
And it comes down to the tank size.
Sure. Well, I agree. And don't forget to go to Seahorse Sources Group to get those guidelines to set up your first Seahorse tank. And I would just say that I will see you guys at Tank Talk with Tyann this Tuesday to learn more about cephalopods. And I would also say, I hope you guys come back to Wine Wednesday because I'm going to get Dr. Tim in here and I'm going to get Dan on a computer instead of a phone to do Ask Seahorse Source Part 4. And also, I want him and Ray to have this discussion about organics because I just think it's fascinating. We got to get to the bottom of this.
The thing is, he talks about Randall Holmes barley.
Randy,
That's it. And I when I was first getting into this, I used to live and breathe everything he said, and it was just. I mean, it wasn't a joke. I was desperate. I didn't know anybody else. It was before I joined the Seahorse.org and ever got really involved, and I was new. And
He's not just a chemist; he's a scientist.
Yeah.
Tank Talk with Tyann is on Facebook. Kevin, can you post a link to the group for us in the comment section for Zen Ginger?
I'd love to participate and be there and listen. I really like her. She's got a great attitude.
Tyann is great, and we often have her on here because a lot of times the seahorse world and the clownfish world interact. And Tank Talk with Tyann, they also talked about cephalopods and they have different guests. So I definitely recommend it. Maybe we should do that too.
Sorry, I missed that one I really wanted because I'm like, oh, I hope I can. And I was driving home, like, and
That's
when
the
it
cool
was
thing. Yeah, but she leaves the live streams up just like we do. So even if you
yeah. So
can't make
now
it
I'm
right
trying to watch.
then, it's better to be there live because you can ask questions. But anyways,
Didn't you say
if
last
Kevin
week you
doesn't
had
put
to have
up,
a
Kelly.
smartphone, Mel?
wait, everybody's talking at once. Ray, go ahead.
Didn't you say last week you had to have a smartphone to participate?
You have to be.
You
A
can
computer won't work.
you can
What? No, no,
watch it
no.
though on your
Yes.
computer. You can get on the Facebook and watch it and type comments in and stuff. Yeah.
Right, Ray. I'm sorry if I misled you. You can watch it on any device. I couldn't be on anything but a phone to be, but you can watch
Yeah, you
it
can't
anyway.
join live to where you're part of the video unless you do it
Right.
from your phone.
If Kevin doesn't put the link up, I will put it in the description because it's a great group. Tyann is great. She comes here all the time. And I mean, we're Seahorse focused, obviously, but I've always wanted to expand to bring more in about macros and different stuff. So I need to get off my butt and start doing that because she's leading the example and doing a great job. But anyhow, you guys, I am going to have to end it for tonight. Sorry for the early night. Go ahead. Yeah, you have to join the group first.
Last week, I was talking. I mentioned briefly using tubs for clownfish rather than, in other words, yeah. Anyway, years ago, I proposed it to somebody that was actively breeding clouds, and they told me flat out it wouldn't work because you can't get the mesh small enough, and there was just 50,000 different excuses. And quite frankly, I've had enough success. And Chris Carey just messaged me a few days ago that the Koi viewing bowls have gotten so pricey. He bought water storage, plexiglass or plastic water storage containers. Had a friend of his cut them off so they were the right height, beveled the edges, and he's using those in place of the actual Koi viewing bowls for raising fry. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I'd like to propose this to her because I think she would. She's having beautiful success, but I think she could reduce her workload and increase her production if she went to the round self-cleaning tubs. Because then, when she would put food in there would be nothing left over in short order, and all it would require would then be cleaning out the filter sock or what she's using to trap detritus.
I told Tyann that we wanted her to get back in here on a Wine Wednesday, and you two can and dig it out and talk it through. And she said absolutely she wants to come schedule the date because she's doing her thing Tuesdays. But
I think I can give her a boost on her clowns that could help boost other breeders of other different species if they would start using this. Because I've been using it for 14 years now.
Well, that's why we want to have a whole show where you and her can talk it through and say, well, what about this and what about that? And it'll be great. Just to let you guys know, I put a link to the actual Facebook watch that we missed yesterday, and then Andrea put a link to the group. You do have to join the group, Tank Talk with Tyann, to be able to see the lives, but it's easy. You just join, tell them Seahorse Whisperer sent you, and then you'll see them when they come live Tuesday.
I missed yesterday. I been refinishing a bookcase, and I slipped and fell the end of last week, and I've been hobbling around my house, barely able to move.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was pretty painful. Today was the first day I actually was able to go around the house, walk around without painkillers.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I would say, Melinda, we'll invite Robert King. He's been here too. He's been on Wine Wednesday too, but we'll invite him for the tub conversation too. We'll have all three of them here.
I think they could improve their quality and improve, because the thing is, it's not just me. What I'm proposing are a hobbyist version of what the huge pros are using for fish propagation.
It's true. I can vouch for it. When I changed over to tubs, it changed my breeding practices. I went from keeping 20 alive to 300. It was nuts. So for sure, It's for sure. And Zen, gosh, I get the names wrong. Zen Ginger, thank you so much for coming. Again, sometimes we dive into the science and we get too detailed in this stuff. I love it when new hobbyists come that want to keep seahorses. And I try always to bring it back to you guys because that's what we're here for. We're a community. We're here to talk to each other. We're here to do Ray's experiment and learn more about organics. We're here for all that, but we're definitely here for you because we want more people to know that they can keep seahorses without failing. It's not as hard as it used to be, and any question you ask, we're here for you.
We were
By the
all new
way,
ones.
check out the thread on R2R on that organics bit on Randy's forum there, because there was a fellow, I think, from Singapore that posted a colorimetric test for organics,
Ooh.
but it's, in my opinion, it's not going to be suitable.
Is it not delicate enough?
Yeah, that's part of it, and a lot of errors when used with salt water. But anyway, I put my thoughts on it after he posted his information, but also I couldn't find a North American source for it in the first place.
Ah, gotcha.
But
Well, Ray's,
if you're interested in it, just check out the last couple threads on it.
absolutely. And will you send me a link to the thread so I can post it in the description to check it out?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also we'll have an update on that. I will post something this week to let you know what we're going to do next week because we've had too many open chats. We need to get back to topics and guests. I'm going to get back on it, guys. I promise. Tell your friends to come, and I'll see you at Tank Talk with Diane. Go ahead, Cheryl. Last comment.
Real quick. Ray, can you send me a link to what you're doing? Because I've got some other people. I've been talking with some other people, and the more people we can get to do experiment this, the more effective it's and precise it's going to become.
Well, it's on the on Messenger there.
Right.
I put it on there, and like at the end there, I'm using my I use my phosphorus tester, ultra low phosphorus tester.
Yeah.
To do testing, and I found out that because it'll only read up to 200 parts per billion, I had to go with just half strength chlorine in the test.
Right. I read all that.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I haven't got any.
We want the link to the Reef to Reef thread too.
Okay.
So send it to me and I'll send it to everybody else and put it in the description.
Right, exactly. The thing is, the more people we can get that will test this stuff, the better off we're all going to be. Maybe the problem has nothing to do with dissolved organics. And we've been living off of this for 20 years. It's hard to say.
My thing is, I'm not concerned if it is actual dissolved organics causing the problem or not, because what's critical to me, if we treat the tank, look after the tank so that we don't have the organic problem,
right,
that takes care of it. So if it's taking care of the actual thing that isn't organic in full,
right, like Holly said, if it's something connected,
it's still going to look after
what we're doing is verifying a hypothesis.
Right, but no, he's right. Even if we can figure out the organics testing, then even if it's something other than organics but related, it will still solve the problem.
I can scum a tank. I can scum a tank with dissolved organics in a heartbeat. Don't even kid yourself.
Okay, guys, I know you guys are like, we could talk all night. I would love to talk with you all night. It's just this Wednesday. Got an interview tomorrow for a job. I got to go. I'm so sorry. But I love y'all. I'm so glad you come. And Zen Ginger, please come. All of you, please come back. We love the questions. Andrea, we love your input. Heather, of course, you know we love you. Diane, all of you. Thanks for coming. And always come back with questions. I will announce some topics and guests that are coming up in the future that I've been working on. So stay tuned.
The hoo-hoo, Seahorse hoo.
All right, Cheryl. Enough. We're going to say Happy Wine Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Well, we'll see you Tuesday.
There's a link there.
All right, Ray. I'll post it in the comments. Happy Wine Wednesday, everybody.